I don't know if I missed a memo or something, but I actually didn't realize 2017 was the 10th anniversary of Polaris's RZR. And if you think about it, the RZR is an iconic vehicle that changed the sport of ATV riding and side-by-side riding. I remember the very first RZR model that we had, the 800, it was 50 inches. I remember running around at our test track, hitting jumps with it. You know, every jump was something new, every jump was something crazy and unheard of. And it's actually almost mind-boggling how far that vehicle has come and how many versions of it Polaris has released over just a short 10-year span. There's no question that the Polaris RZR is the most popular sport side-by-side in the industry, and I think that that's for a very good reason. But when you look at the community that surrounds the RZR vehicle, it's almost a cult following. I mean, people are loyal. They're just so passionate about the vehicle. Of course, Polaris has really helped create this community by putting on events like Camp RZR. And if anybody watching doesn't know what Camp RZR is, it's basically a great big gathering that Polaris hosts, and it's for RZR owners. I mean, it's for anybody. You see a lot of people there with other vehicles, but mostly it's for people who have RZRs to get together and just experience their vehicle with one another. And the first few were hosted in Glamis, California. Then they had some on the East Coast in Tennessee, some overseas in the UAE and China, I think even as well. So it's become an international event. And this year, Polaris, because it's the 10th year of RZR, they celebrated that at Camp RZR in Glamis. Of course, there's no way I was going to miss Camp RZR Glamis 10-year anniversary of RZR. I mean, that was something that you have to be at. It's like the Woodstock of side-by-sides. If there's one thing that Camp RZR embodies, it's that ATVing, side-by-side riding is more fun when experienced with friends. So in that spirit, I brought my friend and co-worker Vern with me. He wanted to see Camp RZR as well. I'd never been to Camp RZR Glamis. So it was a good match for the two of us to go down here and experience this incredible event. Flew into California, into San Diego, and we rented a motorhome and drove to Glamis. And that was going to be our base of operations for the weekend. Honestly, I was left speechless when I showed up. Polaris's Camp RZR event grounds was massive. It was the size of a small city. The number of people who actually registered was over 20,000 people.
Camp RZR, the RZR brand, means so much to us. So this is our chance to give back to our owners. Our owners are the ones who continue to inspire us, empower us, and motivate us to go to work every day to keep making better and better off-road vehicles. And so to be here with all of our partners in the industry and give back to them, it's just an incredible time. Every year it's grown year over year over year. And so for us to be out here, it's really grown a bond with our consumers and allowed us to learn a lot more from them and then just give back to them as well when they're here.
When the doors to the Camp RZR Village opened on Friday, and that's where the stage is, a lot of their vendors, there's partners, there's stuff to see and do. There's a kid zone. You can take your kids, let them ride around in little tiny electric RZRs, which is pretty awesome. They have a parking lot designated just for side-by-sides behind the actual Camp RZR Village. It was jam-packed full of everything from huge sand rails to obviously RZRs, dirt bikes, ATVs, you name it. Everything was parked in there. It was just mayhem for about the first hour and a half of people just pouring in.
You know, I think for a RZR owner to come to Camp RZR, there's lots of things that they get excited about. One is our awesome new demos that we have. We have the new DYNAMIX 4 machine out here today. It's the give-backs that we do, and just an all-around good time.
Polaris had loaned us a just-released RZR 4 XP 1000 Turbo DYNAMIX Edition. So we had this vehicle, this perfect dune running vehicle, and I said to the guys, let's just go out in the dunes and explore and do some riding. So that's what we did, and we spent a good amount of the day out there ripping around in the dunes. Until eventually we ended up at Oldsmobile Hill, which is a really famous spot in Glamis where people kind of all congregate at the bottom of the hill and then just rip up this steep, whooped out sand dune. But it's a social thing and everybody gathers around and everybody does that.
These guys are from Israel. They watch dirt tracks.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So I started launching off this wind lip, and it was pretty cool. It's a little scary coming up to the face of it and dropping off into basically the unknown. All you can see is the sky while you're climbing up to it. So that was pretty cool. But after I hit those jumps a few times, it's like, let's go find bigger jumps. So we went on a mission to find the biggest jump we could find. The thing about Glamis, though, the thing about any sand dune is that you can't just ride in a straight line. You have to follow the contours of the dunes to get where you're going. And you often can't see what's on the other side of a dune as you're running up the edge of it. So when there's lots of people in Glamis, you need to be careful. But what's interesting about this area is that it's so big that even though there was tons of people there, it's really not that busy once you're further out into the dune areas. So, we were quite a ways out, and it was just an awesome experience to get faster railing on the edges of the dunes, railing along these huge bowls that were almost as big as you could see. They went right up into the horizon when you're at the bottom. Finally found the jump we were looking for. The run up to the face of this jump was 100 and something feet, and it was almost straight up. So when you're running up the face of the jump, you can't see anything but sky. You have no idea where you're headed. You have no idea where you're going to land. You can't even see the takeoff, really. You're just holding this RZR full throttle up the face. It was a really fun time. It was definitely a good way to test out the dynamic smart suspension. In that suspension is unbelievable. You can have it set to full soft, and as soon as you hit the face of the jump and you're airborne, it puts all the shocks to full hard automatically, and it just cushions your landing. It's crazy how good that works. Been out in the dunes for a couple hours, and it was hot, and we were getting pretty overheated. So we thought, let's head back to the RZR Village and check out some of the giveaways. And anybody who's been to a Camp RZR event knows that Polaris just dumps prizes on the people who are attending. I mean, every one of their sponsors and partners donates tons of stuff. You got Fox shocks and stereos and race radios and anything you can think of, tire and wheel packages, and they're just giving them away. You didn't even have to pay to register, so it literally is free if you win. They also always give away some RZRs. I've seen them give away, I think, 4 one year. It was pretty impressive. But this is the 10-year anniversary of RZR, so it had to be bigger. This year, they were going to give away 10 RZRs. One of the cool events on day 2, I thought anyway, was did a show and shine. And when you're in Glamis, one thing you get really used to seeing is incredibly trick vehicles, from $100,000 sand rails, tricked out ATVs, and of course, obviously, fully customized RZRs. Walking around these vehicles, it's unbelievable the level of craftsmanship that goes into them, customization that goes into them. I mean, some of them are obviously hand-built, they're beautiful, but what also is kind of amazing is the amount of aftermarket support there is for these vehicles, because a lot of them are built, they're custom, but they're built from parts that anybody can buy. At 7 o'clock, everybody began gathering back at Camp RZR Village because it was the big show. The evening festivities were when all of the RZRs were going to be given away. People were pumped. Generally at Camp RZR, they have a band, and the second night's festivities are a concert, but this year they did things differently. People who were registered for the event sent in videos of them singing karaoke that they whittled down to just 6 for the second day's final show. So these 6 people got up on stage, and they were judged on crowd interaction, obviously how good they were at singing. It was so much different than a regular concert, but so much more entertaining as well. And it was nice to hear the stories of the people who were up there, see the talent that was included in the attendees of Camp RZR. After they whittled down the 6 semifinalists to the 2 finalists, Jolissa and Mark, Jolissa had just an incredible voice. Great singer. She really had a good stage presence. She was having so much fun. And then, Mark was this older guy, kind of a cowboy, and he had a really touching story about his wife.
Listen to me, because this hits home. My wife was diagnosed 2 weeks ago with breast cancer, and it's okay. We're all right. We will get through this.
He was promoting getting checked and making sure your family members are being checked. And if through him being on stage promoting breast cancer awareness saved one life, that he didn't care if he won a RZR, he was already a winner. And I was like, Polaris is going to give this guy a RZR whether he wins or not. After all the singing was said and done, Jolissa and Mark came back up on stage, and Jolissa won because she was the best singer. It was cool to see her genuine excitement as she won this RZR, and she had to work for it. But as I had suspected,
Because they loved your story and you gave it everything you got, you were going to get a RZR as well.
the final event of Camp RZR, the way it worked was people were called from the crowd, randomly picked and called from the crowd, and they went up on stage and stood in front of a cooler. And on the inside of the cooler lid was the prize that they could win. And in this case, they were giving away 4-seat dynamic RZRs, 2-seat dynamic RZRs, standard RZRs. They gave away audio systems. They had a $5,000 gift certificate for 4-wheel parts. Or even if you didn't win a RZR, you still went home with something pretty amazing. Tons of people went home with stuff, but most importantly, everybody went home with awesome memories. Everybody who was there was a part of celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Polaris RZR, of the vehicle that started the sports side-by-side industry, of the vehicle that started this brotherhood of RZR riders.
Yeah, the next 10 years for Camp RZR, who knows where it's going to go. It's continued to get bigger and bigger. We see no signs of it slowing down. We want to continue to be here year over year, and hopefully this is the start. You know, this is year 10 of 100 to come from Camp RZR.
You guys have a great night at Camp RZR.
Thanks for watching this segment of Dirt Trax TV. For more great content, make sure you click the links or subscribe to our channel, where we're always updating with new content every day throughout the week.